Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Author Spotlight, where we get to interview someone who's published their book and they share the insides, outs, the highs and the lows so that you can learn from them on your journey as an author. So without any further ado, I'm really pleased to invite Joanna Gaudoin with us, and we've been practicing her name and she'll let me know if I got that right. Who has fabulous. So I'm just going to pop your book title here. So Getting On, Making Work. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Joanna, and also your book.
So I'm Joanna Gaudoin. I've run Inside Out Image now for nearly 12 years, and everything I do is about helping people navigate the workplace positively and effectively, progress their careers, and of course this helps their organisation, company, firm to progress and improve performance overall. And it's all about the skills that people often neglect. So I work mainly in professional financial services sectors where people are very bright, knowledgeable, technical, lawyers, accountants, bankers. So they've ticked all the boxes on the exams and qualifications, but they often haven't worked on how they come across to others, how they build relationships, how they have the skills in business development, networking, managing teams. So I wrote a book to bring together all that knowledge, all the work I've been doing with individuals and groups over the last 12 years. I have had a proper job as well, or several proper jobs. I started out in marketing, consumer goods, a glamorous world of nappies and toilet roll, and then worked in several consultancies for a few years doing different things before deciding I wanted to do something different. So retrained and started my business.
Fab. So what's it been like becoming an author?
Quite strange. It's not something it's something I resisted for a long time. I had various people ask me, "Oh, do you have a book?" People suggesting I should, and I really sort of kept pushing it away. Writing, I have to admit, is not my favourite thing. I've had a lot of good feedback, great feedback actually on the book, but I definitely don't find it easy, that's for sure. So that was quite challenging, but it's been great having the book. It's really, really good as a marketing tool, really, to go out there and showcase your expertise. And I think you do get a lot more respect if you've got a book as well. But it wasn't something I ever intended. It came together. I think there was one particular client that kept talking about it. It's the polite way to put it. And then a colleague of mine had been working with Karen, actually, and he said, there is a way to do this with help. And I knew I would never do it if it was just left to me on my own. I needed support to know how to do it, but also I needed the accountability. If no one was chasing me for it, it wouldn't get done. So joining the group really helped. And I remember Karen asking me most times, "So Joanna, by the time we next meet, how many words will you have written?" I was like, "Okay, another 10,000. And I wouldn't have got it done if I hadn't joined that. So it wasn't something I intended, but it's been a really interesting learning experience, and delighted to now have the book done.
And so I think off air we were talking, you said it's a bit like going back to university, so going from that sort of resisting it, but now somebody, because I think there's a really big thing, Karen and I've talked about that before, about people tuning into why they're doing it. And I think if you've already gotten in, mine was always, I've had a desire to always write a book, just didn't know which book. And we've had lots of people we've worked with where other people have told them they ought to write the book. So I guess you have to. So what happened in between? Obviously, someone's recommended Karen and you thought, I've got help and accountability. But what else has happened, or is anything else happened between that sort of resistance and being published? Is there anything else that changed or was different?
I think just the sort of request for a book coming from different sources, or I should say not so much the request, the encouragement to write one coming from different sources. And I just thought, I'm hearing this a lot now. Maybe I just need to get on with it. And then at the same time, my colleague talked about, he'd been working with Karen one-to-one, and I found out Karen was starting the fast track program. So that seemed like a good way to approach it. And it was, because I learned a lot from the other people in the group as well. And we supported each other and kept one another accountable. It was really interesting to hear about their books too. And what I liked was it was a time limited process. The idea was you were trying to get this done in 6 months. I was a bit over in the end because I got COVID quite badly a bit past halfway. And so that put everything back. But broadly, it was probably 7.5 months. I'm not someone to want something to go on forever. I like to get things done.
It's one of the big things that's where Karen and I are very different. Karen is really good at working with people that have committed to that accountability, getting it done in 6 months, whereas I tend to be the person that I need time to process it and I need to work over longer periods of time. I'm not her ideal client. We often joke about that. But in terms of that accountability to, you know, as soon as I get a time pressure, for me, it doesn't work. So it's great to hear. And I think that's something for other authors to bear in mind, because I think there's, you know, some people will need to take it more of a leisure with no deadline, but they have to take action every single day to go towards it. And other people have to have the deadline in order to get the action done. And I think you're always checking in with yourself, aren't you, to find out what works for you.
What works. I think the best piece of advice I had from the guy who recommended Karen was, you need to know what you're going to write about the minute you sit down. You don't want to be getting up at 6 a.m. to write and then going, oh, what am I going to write about? So whereas, you know, so planning was important, whereas I'm not a great planner. I'm thinking about university. I just wrote my essays, probably off the back of a lot of wine from the night before party, but I didn't plan them. And I came to the stiff realization that you can't do that with a book. You'd end up with a complete mess. So that was quite a hard bit of the journey to go through, of thinking, right, I've really got to plan this.
And that's the first part of the author's system, though, isn't it? That the process that Karen takes you through is really helping you to drill down and get really accurate about what's going where and what you're going to be writing about.
And that was quite a funny story, actually, because I remember a particular group session and it was all talking about the planning and Karen giving all these ideas. One of them that comes to mind was sticking Post-its up on the wall in themes. I was like, oh goodness, can't do that. What a mess that'll make, not doing that. So I went away and I thought, how am I going to do this? And I created a spreadsheet. And in one column, I put all the sort of topics, but kind of pieces of guidance, advice I've given to people over the years in that first column. Then I went through all my client notes, all the workshops I've ever delivered, added to it. And I can't remember how many hundreds of rows it was. Then I gave it an overarching primary topic and a secondary, took it back to the group the next week, and they were all petrified. Like, we haven't done this. Karen was like, it's okay, you don't have to. And she's like, yes, I've never quite seen something like this before, but it worked for me. And it felt, I'm a bit of an all or nothing person. I thought, right, if I'm doing this planning, I'm really doing it.
And I think on that note, I guess that it's spatial, isn't it, how you're holding? So I think some people have to put it up and away, and that's where the Post-it notes really work. And other people, I think it just depends. My husband's much more, I've had to learn how to do like Trello boards and spreadsheets. Because once you put it into this little space on the computer, my brain goes, I can't see it. And I get quite overwhelmed. Whereas I think other people, so it's great that you found what worked for you. And actually just listening to you, I'm like, oh, yeah, I even said to you off air, I think I was too bored to go and listen to all my old recordings. I'd rather just coach somebody else again fresh and get the reminders. But actually the diligence you've put in there, you can see how the information comes through, and then you've got the patterns you can get your themes for your headers and stuff. So that's I make a little note here now for myself to go away and
it's not for everyone though, and Karen was very good at suggesting alternatives for people.
And I'd have to do Trello because I'd have to have some colours and I'd have to have pictures in there, but it'd be a similar kind of thing. So that's really inspiring. So why, I think you've kind of covered this now, but because other people are encouraging you to do, but is there any other reason why you wrote a book, particularly wrote this book?
I just think it's an area that people don't focus on enough. You know, there are career books out there, but they're quite narrow in what their scope that they cover. And I just felt like this is something people need to read. And a few of the reviewers have said, I wrote it aimed at middle to senior level people, but actually those that are very junior and keen, they're the secondary audience really. And that's what a few of the reviewers have said. But I was very fortunate to have quite a few partners from law firms and things review it, and they sort of said this needs to be read by everybody. You know, even as a very senior person, you can learn lots of practical tips for how to work more effectively and positively, engage with others and build your career. And I just felt like that was something I needed to put out there. I mean, as always happens, because now the book, essentially I started writing it over 2 years ago. You think, oh, I wish I'd included that, should have done that, but you know, maybe I'll update it one day. But so it's from a point in time, from the knowledge you had then, but hopefully really valuable for people and practical. That's the most important thing for me. There's no point giving people concepts, theories. They are important, but if people don't know how to go and implement that for themselves.
Yeah. And I think it's an important point that you touched on there about, you know, it can get out of date, but I think too many people put off getting their book published for fear of that. but it's already proving, as you say, with what was right at the time of writing is having an impact, and it'll give people more insights and practical resources. So what's been the most important thing that you've learned going through this process of going from that resistance to actually being published?
I think that sometimes you just need to persist through something that feels flipping hard work and not really your exact gifting to get to a good result in the end. And I honestly, I can't say to you I loved writing it. I didn't. It wasn't as tough as I thought it would be. If people even mention another one, I'm not thinking along those lines, let's say. But I think I learned a lot about myself. I am quite a disciplined, structured person, but it made me be even more so because I have really full days anyway. So trying to find the time to write a book was really hard. And I am fortunately an early morning person, so I did tend to get up and not even look at anything else and just write it. Interestingly, another colleague of mine, a different one, had started writing a book, and that's the advice she gave me about the early morning thing. But sadly, she's not finished hers, which is a shame because she had lots of good advice and then hasn't finished her own.
yeah, it's always easier to give it to other people, isn't it, than take it yourself. So so well done that. So basically then the thing is that pushing through even when it's hard is worth it. And actually, the whole process has taught you to be even more disciplined than you were before because you've got that accountability.
Yeah, with the writing, I mean, when it came to the editing stage, that was quite tough. On a practical perspective, really, because my husband was unfortunately losing his mother at that point, so we weren't at home. So we were dealing with all of that, living somewhere else, and trying to print it out on a painfully slow printer or review it. And I think when I got to the point I'd read it 3 times in a month, I was like, oh, don't want to read this ever again. So I think the discipline to write it and just getting it written was hard, but actually the editing bit was really hard because it's very hard to stand back from your own book, I think.
I can so relate to that. And it is sort of pushing yourself to actually read it, because you so easily could just get sort of like word blind and think you know it. So you're sort of skimming it instead of actually checking that what you're thinking is actually there.
Yes, and my geography teacher, I always remember, she used to go on about how I was compound sentence queen. So I really had her words in my head. So I was trying to look at it critically and say, well, are these sentences too long? How can I make them more concise? So I had that lens on it as well, even though the editor should have picked up on that too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. It's having both of you, isn't it? Because the editor, to some extent, is also wanting to keep your personality. So if that's kind of how you speak, they're not going to correct all of those things. No. But Karen is good, isn't she, for giving you filters to go through the editing through and say, go through and check this. And you do have to do them one at a time. And I think that's where the discipline comes in. You can't try and say, oh, these are 10 things I'm going to check. You have to go through the book and go, have I done all this? And then have to go through it all again. And that does take discipline.
Yeah, it's quite painful. But it was interesting because a few of my clients who've read it said I could really hear your voice coming through. Things I'd actually said to them, they could then read in the book.
Yeah, that's great to hear that, because we don't want you getting lost in editing process, which if they get too grammatically correct, we lose the way that we talk as a human, don't we? What do you wish you'd known before you started?
Oh, what do I wish I know? I wish I thought more about, and I know we did talk about marketing in the process, but probably setting that up a bit further in advance. I felt like I was then in a mad hurry to get various things. And my publisher did help me with some bits of that, but I feel like we did have a plan for marketing it, but it could have been better. But I think the problem is you're so engrossed in writing the book, you can't really think about that time period. So I think somebody that's going to do it has to think about, have I got this chunk of time to write the book? And then have I got this chunk of time sort of overlapping, but going onwards to market it? Yeah. Because I probably haven't done the most amazing job with that. And some of that's being a bit self-effacing about it, but some of it is just practical, that when it came to the point it was actually being published, it actually fell at a really busy time. It actually fell just before Christmas, which was quite tricky in some regards. So I wish I'd sort of thought about that side of it a little bit more. So what would you have done different then if you had thought about it? Just planned it more, I think. Yeah, we did. I worked with my marketing lady and the book publisher, and obviously took Karen's knowledge that she shared in the program and tried to have a bit of a plan. But I don't think I probably spent as much time on it as I could have done.
It's one of the things we talk about as the author's journey, and marketing is part of it. But from the very word go, if you start telling people you're writing a book and you get them involved in the research, or you get people onto a mailing list, or sort of being interested it's coming, you can do that marketing. But for some people, if they're stretching themselves outside their comfort zone to actually write the book, and then they're getting sort of, you've got to do a blog or a newsletter or something else, it can often feel like another thing you've got to do. So I can relate to that from a time perspective, but I think it is so important that we start talking about it, even if it's just a notebook and you write down all the people that said they were interested at the very beginning.
Yeah, and I did do bits like that. It just, I know it's hard to describe exactly what I think I wish I'd done. Probably just integrated a bit more into my overall marketing that it was coming. Maybe I had a fear I wouldn't finish it, and so I didn't want to overly mention it. So I did mention it to people, but I didn't go crazy about it. So in case for some reason it didn't happen.
That's all relatable, and I know that there's lots of people that are like that. So and the thing I guess then is, it's a message I probably say to people that are listening now as well, that marketing ideally, and that's the book that Karen's relaunching actually with her second edition, an update on it in September, is ideally you do it the minute you start writing. But again, you are growing as a person, and you're learning about your knowledge and your wisdom as you write. Quite often we get to know ourselves better, and sometimes you do have to wait till you're at that tipping point where you have more confidence that this is actually going to happen, because it's also part of your reputation, is if you put it out there and it's not, it doesn't come out when it is all part of that process of finding out what works.
I talk a lot about, when I talk about building trust, reliability, doing what you say you will, talk about it in networking stuff as well. So for me, if I'd gone said it, I would have had to have a very good reason why it then didn't happen. I mean, silly thing, but it's like this year I put in my newsletter in January, this year I'm going to do tennis lessons. Now, I actually haven't ended up doing them because we're renovating our house. We had to move out for far longer than ever intended. But I actually said that in my newsletter. I actually said, I didn't get to this because, and it's really important to me that people don't just say stuff, they say stuff and mean it and act on it. So I just felt with the book that there was a slight risk there, and I didn't really know what the risk was, but you just never know.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So what was your lowest point through the process?
It was quite hard once I'd written what I thought was the bulk of the book, to then go back through it and do the first, I suppose, self-edit. What have I missed? That was hard. And I think also dealing with editors' comments and you know, who likes developmental feedback. You know, I run a lot of sessions on it, and it's really important. But which of us really likes it, even if we know it's good for us, whether it's making a book better, performing better at work. So that, not that the comments were bad, or just, oh no, I've got to think about that again. Stuff I thought I'd shut the door on.
Yeah.
So
I think that, I totally, and I think that in the personal development world, which is where I am as well, you can relate to it, can't you? There's always something someone can do better, and I think sometimes we get to that point as humans, we go, "Am I not enough yet? Can just where I am here just okay for a little bit?" And I think that happens definitely with a book. It's like you really want it to be finished, especially when you do get to that bit. So that's definitely the thing I'm kind of taking so far, and you're not alone. It is an effort, and it's consistent and discipline, as you talked about, to get to the point we get your first draft. And I think we all breathe a sigh of relief when we finish that bit, then without really knowing that you've got to do several more repetitions with feedback and peer review and everything else that comes after that. That it's only, you've only done half the marathon at that point.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you don't realise that. So your question earlier, I think actually you have no idea about that at the beginning unless you've written a book before. And the problem is, I don't know if you've ever done Belbin's team roles, very old psychometric tool now. I did it in my first job 20 odd years ago, but I'm what they call one of my roles, things I'm good at, is a completer finisher. So I like to get things done and ticked off, and it just felt like there was this very long tail with the book, and it's an ongoing journey, because now still you need to mention it and market it,
use it
whilst you've got it. Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of those things.
It is, well, it's a bit like you're saying about having discipline and accountability, and that it's a really big thing, and that's why I think people get so much value out of Karen's programs being condensed into a small chunk of time. It forces, because people, you know, they may have been thinking about it for years themselves, and they don't need it to drag on any further. So that's when making that commitment, you are pushing to get it done within a small time frame. But it is a big project. You know, to get 50,000 words that are good words take time. And as much as we'd like to tick it off and say it's done, I will remember that tick, though. It gets sort of like waiting for it to be ticked.
The long tail.
Yeah. Long tail. So what has been your biggest success to date as a result of writing the book?
Oh, a really surprising, quite small thing in a way, because as I say to people, it's not just about selling the book, it's selling the book to the right people who then want to work with you, that they understand you more. But I remember there was one day I was going to someone who'd been a client and who's not in my usual sector, and it was quite a trek to get up to the venue, and that they'd organised a venue for me to come and speak. So I was doing a book roadshow for clients where I'd go and speak for free for 20 minutes and they could buy the book at a discount. And it was a long trek. My lovely pet rabbit was really sick that day, so I didn't really want to leave her, and I was going to have to leave quickly at the end to get her to the vets because we decided she needed to go. We go downhill very quickly. So I really didn't want to go. I can't tell you, I was so close to cancelling, but it's just not my thing to cancel. So I dragged myself on this long journey, gave the talk in this lecture. It went down the storm. They asked loads of questions, really interesting questions, actually. And then I sold all the books. I couldn't believe it. I came back with a completely empty bag. There was one left, but it's because it got hidden behind a seam or something. And that was just so great. And for what turned out something I really didn't want to do that morning. And I thought, oh, no one's going to be interested. I won't sell any books. I'll have to carry them all back on this journey. And they all went. And I felt like they asked really valuable and interesting questions. So that was great. I was just only sad I had to really race out the room to get back on the train again.
Well, I think that's probably my big takeaway from this, because someone who says she didn't do marketing, it sounds like you had a book tour with your clients where they could get it on a discount. And you just that's probably quite a bit of marketing.
It was, I suppose, because I've got my first job. Well, I've got a big marketing background, really. So I suppose to me, it feels like I did basic stuff. I didn't do anything terribly amazing and creative.
Right.
So I probably did what sounds like a lot of marketing to some people who don't have a marketing background. But I think I know for me, I could have done better.
Well, I'm going to definitely take that one away, because I think that's a great opportunity to get your clients to have a free talk, but they get a chance to buy the book for a lower amount. So thank you so much for joining us today. I've really enjoyed that. I'm just going to put the link to your book again at the bottom for those who want to get it. So it's on the website insideoutimage.co.uk, Getting On, Making Work by Joanna Gaudoin. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to, maybe we'll have you back on the show again to find out about your success a year from now. So thank you so much, Joanne.
Thanks very much, Cheryl. Have a good weekend.
You're very welcome. So that leaves us to say to you that if you are a budding author and you want to get your book out there, then please do get in touch with Karen from Librotas, who is the sponsor of this show. Without further ado, I'll see you on the next show.